moving into the topic of the current events, Kyiv was the capital of Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic once again. Ukrainians, Russians, and Belarusians, it's like three Slavic nations. So our language is kind of similar. I mean, if you move to Ukraine from Russia, after 3-4 months, you'll be understanding fluently Ukrainian, maybe not speaking. And I had a lot of Russian friends in my school. I had two of my best friends are Russians. And I am a perfect example of Soviet citizen because by nationality, I'm Ukrainian. And my first language is Russian. Like I always spoke Russian. It was hard to find a school in Kyiv, capital of Ukraine, that taught in Ukrainian language. All the schools were teaching Russian. So I'm like a Soviet Ukrainian, the guy that Ukrainian by nationality, but not by language. When I came to America first time in 1995, my English was okay, because the only reason I could get to this exchange program, I had to speak pretty fluent English so I can talk to kids. But after 3 months in Michigan, we traveled to New York, and at JFK airport, I met a Ukrainian lady from Canada. I don't know if you know, in Canada, there's a lot of Ukrainians. And she started talking to me in Ukrainian, and I tried to reply, and I was horrified because I was dropping English words. It was really scary experience when your brain is trying one thing and your mouth just says different. So, and most of my friends, they're all Russian speaking, so that's kind of how the Soviet Union was doing Russification, they call it. So they slowly were trying to make everyone speak Russian. So you go in Ukraine and capital of Ukraine and everything is in Russian. That's how Kyiv became Kyiv again. We just looked it up on the way. This new name, it's only since officially became since 2020. Before that it was Kyiv. And I was like trying to explain why, but you know, when Russia attacked Ukraine first time back in 2014, they took Crimea Peninsula because it kind of made, okay, why we everyone calling our capital Russian style when Russians are not really our friends. It's really kind of dumb example, but a picture the United States will split in 50 separate countries, and California will be like, oh yeah, our original roots are going back to Mexico. So we want to be, our capital will be Los Angeles. It's not, I know, it's Sacramento, right? But we don't want to call Los Angeles. It needs to be Los Angeles. So this is how Kyiv came to. And speaking of this war, I was totally caught by surprise. I never saw it like coming. I mean, it was obviously something is brewing, but with my experience of having Russian friends, and I never could even imagine that something like that possible when Russians, our brothers, will attack Ukrainians. So yeah, that was told. I actually had several videos on my Ushanka Show when I was telling Americans, my viewers, like, hey, it's not going to happen, it's stupid. It did happen. The reason behind it, it's actually way worse than maybe you know or think. It's official reason for this. First of all, it's not war. According to Mr. Putin, it's a special military operation. You can get in serious trouble in Russia if you call it war. It must be called special military operation. Up to 15 years in prison if you don't say that. When I looked, you know, okay, we'll put aside this whole Russian-Ukrainian friendship and history forever, for 300 years we're together. This war doesn't make sense on so many levels. Like, Ukraine is the size of Texas. It's a big country, 44 million people. To occupy a country that size, you need like on the ground, boots on the ground, 500,000 troops to have like real occupation. You have people in cities, you have troops in the villages, main areas. It's not easy to do, especially if the population is not cooperating. Second reason, and I'm not a like military guy, you don't usually start wars in winter. Days are short, nights are long. It's hard to operate and attack on the nighttime. It's cold, attack inside, always outdoors. It's not really enjoyable spending nights, even days in the cold weather. Then, of course, I don't know if you're familiar with location like Ukraine geographically. If you look at the map and you move Ukraine to like United States, the far south of Ukraine is pretty much where we are, like Bering Springs, I live in Bering Springs, is pretty much the further south of Ukraine, the rest is north. So Ukraine is like UP. And in middle of end of February, it's a lot of Rasputita, so muddy fields, snow is melting, so you stuck to the highways, roads. So if you watch any videos from Ukraine right now, you see stuck and abandoned tanks or burned down tanks on the roads. Because Russians dealing with it, they can't get off road in most of the areas except the south. So they stay on the roads, and that's where the drones come in, the artillery, and the American javelins. So they having a hard time, thank God, because in the summer they could just fan out, just like Germans did in 1941 in June. You don't need to be stuck with the roads, you can move. So that's like why it makes sense to start now. The reason that Putin claims what he wants to do in Ukraine, he wants to make a denazification. So we have apparently in Ukraine a lot of neo-Nazis. What's interesting, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, he is Jewish, and he is a Russian-speaking Jewish. Just like me, he grew up speaking Russian. So claiming that the government is neo-Nazi when the president of that government is Russian-speaking Jewish person, it just, it doesn't make any sense. So they want to do denazification and demilitarization. So they want Ukraine to be having no army. That's their like official term. But what's really scary is the real reason is way worse than that. So a couple of days, so the attack happened on the 24th of February. On the 26th, there was an article published on the Russian website, like official government RIA Novosti site. And the article was called like Russia is advancing along with the Russian world. That article was on the internet for 3-4 days. When they realized that war is not going as it was supposed to go, they were planning pretty much to be done in 3-4 days. Kyiv is done. Kyiv is taken, got parade. We bring our own government, set up friendly government, and so on. So they removed that article, but of course, internet. Once you put something out there, it's out there. So that article was claiming that Russian invasion was actually solution of the Ukrainian question. I don't know if anybody rings the bell. There used to be other guy back in 30s that was finding solution for Jewish question, Adolf Hitler. So Mr. Putin is looking for solution of Ukrainian question because in his mission of restoring the great Russia, he needed to solve Ukrainian question because great Russia cannot exist without Ukraine. It's like we are important part of the great Russia. So that article claimed, and I was pretty much like assuming that war is rolling really nicely for Russians, that a new world is being born before our eyes. So I have a hard time to find words to express my just towards Putin and everything else, because Adolf Hitler in his book Mein Kampf was talking about Lebensraum. So that's a living space. So Germans deserved living space, and Eastern territories, Ukraine, part of Russia, will be a territory for Germans. Well, Putin has the same concept of the Russian world, Ruski Mir. So anywhere where people speak Russian, they must be part of Russia. Ukraine happens to have a lot of territories that people speak Russian. So that's his plan. And the article stated that Vladimir Putin has assumed, without any exaggeration, so to say correctly word, a historical responsibility not to leave the solution of the Ukrainian question for the future generation. So pretty much he decided to do it now instead of waiting for later, because every year Ukraine is separate from Russia. This new generation of Ukrainians will be less and less Russian friendly. And they actually looked at Ukraine became anti-Russia. I mean, this terminology is just insane, but they really believe in that. And if you know anything about Putin, he is at power about 22 years. So he is a dictator that holds the power so long. So when you are running the country for such a long period of time, of course, you surround yourself with a specific type of people. Real leaders, they looking for qualities in people, like you need to know what you're doing. Dictators, because they're afraid of someone else taking their spot, because there's no fair election, they surround themselves with people they trust. They don't care about how good you are at your job. As long as they trust you, so you don't stab me in my back or put some poison in my food. So that's what Putin did for many years. He surrounded himself with this yes man, and I mean, I could spend hours just talking about corruption in Russia, and I'm really thankful for that corruption now, because all this trouble that the Russian army has, it's pretty much because at least 30% of all the money invested in military were stolen. There's the videos out there. The Russian soldiers have MREs, meals, that expired 7 years ago. So you send your troops to fight, and you give them 7 expired MREs because new ones were probably sold. Old ones where paperwork was cooked, done. The guy got brand new BMW, and now you got Russian soldiers that maybe need to go to the bathroom every 30 minutes instead of fighting because they feed him expired food. They bought the cheapest tires for their cool military equipment, so a lot of their trucks have flat tires, and this list is long. And currently, the Minister of Defense of Russia disappeared. He's not being seen in public since March 11, and who knows what happened to the guy, but since the war doesn't go the way Russia planned, now they start chopping heads. Well, that's pretty much all I got for you guys. If you have any questions on any of these topics, I'm happy to answer. Well, it depends, of course, where. If they went to Kharkiv, which right now being erased by Russians, definitely there'll be no more college there for a long time. Kyiv, they have a big universities there. We have always a lot of students from other countries. They're probably more than happy to take students again. But there'll be, I mean, I don't know how long this war gonna last. I mean, time is on the Ukrainian side. As long as more people are dying, unfortunately, but as more time passes, Russia's getting weaker and weaker. But reconstruction effort and putting back to normal, there'll be probably a while. They might find some kind of solution to restore education, people who like had to leave. But it depends. I mean, Western Ukraine also has quite a few colleges. They may have to move people there, I assume. Like Lviv, one from Kyiv, they have quite a good colleges there too. But Eastern Ukraine, I mean, that'll be a wasteland for a while. I personally wouldn't recommend, but I don't live there for 20 years. But another issue with depending of course on the cities, but there is quite a bit of racism here and there, and it's a tough one. I can't tell you. I would personally suggest not to. I mean, it's great to save money, and as long as like India happy with Ukrainian diploma, that probably getting a degree in the United States will be, it's not as cheap, but definitely safer. I mean, I think there's some Indian students actually died. They couldn't evacuate. So, it's, and another issue was on the border with Poland, they let Ukrainians through, but they stopped Indians and other people because of color of skin. Yeah, but it's just, well, Poland is a separate story about the racism going on in Poland. They refused to cooperate when the Syrian refugee crisis was going on because every country, European Union was required to take so many people, and they're like, we'll take Ukrainians. They kind of count. So, but because color of skin. I don't think money saved on education is worth risking. Like, I'm not sure what colleges they have. Like Lviv, it's Western Ukraine. I mean, Russians sent some missiles that way, but I don't think they have a lot of damage. So Western Ukraine would be a good option to look, but like Kharkiv, that's done. That was a big educational center, but I mean, I'm not sure how bad it is there right now, but it's being bombed daily. So. Well, he painted himself in a corner. There's, no doubt about that, because there was a plan for Blitzkrieg being done really quick. And look, Putin, another reason why I didn't think he would do what he did is because he's extremely corrupt person. Like I don't know if you heard about his 700 million euro super yacht just got discovered. He got a giant castle on the Black Sea. He divorced his wife of 20 or 30 years to start dating this girl that's 30 years younger than him. She's a gymnast, and she's hiding in Switzerland. So the guy is corrupt. He got watches for $500,000. So I didn't think he actually wanted to do anything like that, because he's just talking for people like, hey, I'm a real Russian patriot, but I got a Swiss watch for $500K. Check it out. But he's definitely in the spot that he can go for anything. But fortunately, I think this whole nuclear war talk, but I was wrong about war anyway, but there's a chain of command. It's not just one guy says, I'm pushing buttons. So I hope there's a generals that say it's not happening and will remove him. But Ukraine is doing impressive for what they have, but of course, without Western help, they'll be way worse. I have no doubt there's a boots on the ground, but not in that sense. There's a special forces that telling Ukrainians what's going on and where, and because they killed already like 5 Russian generals. They just blew up big ship on the Azov Sea. So what they do is, like, I know with Ukrainian army, with their equipment, it's impossible to know where the Russians are, and like as long as they jam Russian radios, military radios, forcing Russian generals to use cell phones, and then there's a missile coming right there. You pick up the phone, next thing you know, the guy is dead. It's pretty impressive, but it will get worse before it gets better. Yes, my mother lives in the village up there, so she's an occupied territory from day one, but that village, fortunately, is so, the expression boondocks. Even during World War II, Germans didn't do anything to that village, so similarly. So she's okay, but of course, pretty scary. And my father and my brother, well, my brother is never in the pictures because he's 15 years younger than me, so he showed up way later, but they in Kyiv. That apartment building we live, that area is not really cool area, let's put it that way. It's not really, like you guys saying here, ghetto, but kind of blue-collar ghetto, we call it there. So there's nothing going on there. There's the outskirts of Kyiv and on the south part, and main trouble is in the north. So, but it's nerve-wracking for us because I wake up every morning and I get on the phone to see if my family is still alive. And there's this weird conversation will be my brother like, Yeah, we're really stressed out today. Like why? It's so quiet. There's something is about to happen. There should be a little explosions here and there, but today is so quiet. We're all nervous. It's not easy right now. Yeah, I'm still maintaining. I need to go to work. I need to do my job, and at the same time, like I'm constantly checking the phone. Is there any news from Ukraine? So yeah, it's a lot of stress. Yeah. Everyone is fine right now for my family. Well, Russian government definitely doesn't want them to know what's going on. They shut down Instagram, they shut down Facebook, they shut down Twitter. I think YouTube is the last thing still standing. I'm not sure why they blocked Google News. So that's how much they want to keep information. It's new Iron Curtain dropping hard, and I talked to some people in Russia because I also have a Russian language YouTube channel. It's pretty ugly. There's a lot of people they hate me because I'm Ukrainian just for that reason. But there's a lot of people who what they say to me, they're horrified because they feel like they live in zombie land. Like people are so the propaganda penetrated so good, I guess you could say, that they think it's totally cool to destroy the city because this is what we need to do to win. You have to keep there quiet. Like even if you go on the street with blank piece of paper, you don't write even message, no war, nothing, they'll take you. It's because they understand that you doing I think I just saw news, some girl came up with a sign, "Stop Fascism," and she got arrested. It's like, okay, message "Stop Fascism." Maybe she talked about Ukraine has fascism, like they didn't bother. Like, oh, you have some kind of message, let's go. So, I can tell you, according to the Russian sources, like government sources, 71% of population supported this war. I doubt that high, but it's definitely probably 50-60%, because for a long time, and I think I made a mistake for not following Russian propaganda. It's just I don't watch TV at all, American TV, Russian, Ukrainian TV, but in Russia, I made a video about it. They were talking for years about doing war against Ukraine. It was just like a normal topic of conversation. Like, we just need to have a war with Ukraine. We need to be done with those guys. They just not, doing what we want them to do. They anti-Russia. And I guess when they talk about it in that time, like Goebbels said, if you keep on repeating lies, it becomes truth. And they really affected the population because a lot of people support what the government does. And even they're happy that they losing. McDonald's shut down in Russia, I don't know if you heard that. It's going back to the Soviet Union days, lines for food, they fight for sugar. I was like, really, that's what you want? They're like, yeah, we're cool with that. You mean like punishment for doing stuff like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was illegal, of course, and people would get caught and get arrested, but it was so widespread. It's actually, since you get paid everywhere pretty much the same. So you'll be looking for places of work where you can get housing if you need housing. Other option, you're looking for the place of work where you can steal something valuable. So we'll go and work at the meat shop because I can steal meat. Like my mother worked, she was doing technical drawings. You can't steal really a pencil, ruler, eraser. My father worked at the aircraft factory, spray painting. He was bringing paint home all the time. And then he was doing stuff on the side, painting cars. And that was so widespread. It was like common knowledge. We actually had like even state propaganda will make jokes about nisuni. So the person who carries stuff, if you carry something out of work, you're not stealing. You're just carrying out of work. So that was, stealing is like you take someone private, you steal from the person, you're a stealer. You just take from the factory, or you just take what belongs to you anyway. So that was literally, you could tell if person has a dacha, like a little summer home, by the way it was built, you could tell what the person worked. Like, because, he can work with a lot of metal because I see everything made out of metal. Or if it's made out of lumber, then he works in the lumber yard. So that was a lot of that. It was just so widespread that pretty much, they will arrest some people just to kind of show, we're punishing for doing that, but like I never felt anything like I need to report my father for stealing. It was like, what do? You just, and kind of interesting. Every factory had a turnstile and a person that was guarding. So they were watching, make sure you don't steal. So people had this different ways of hiding stuff when you carry it out. So for example, my father, like you have those paper juice containers, right? Tetra Packs, whatever. We had this silly looking triangle shaped ones with milk. And in Soviet Union, they didn't want to pay you extra if your job is bad for your health, but they'll give you free milk. There was even the expression, if somebody makes you work really hard, like I should get free milk for that. So they'll get maybe 2 packages of this milk at the cafeteria. They drink the milk, they wash the packet, then they fill it with paint, then they seal it, and then just carry it and open in the clear bag. So the guards see, like, I'm taking milk from what I got at work, and take the paint, stuff like that. So that was just really common stealing. And taxi drivers, what they were doing for making money is providing services like, hey, you bought a fridge. If you give me, 20 rubles, I'll take your fridge, deliver, and stuff like that, or siphoning gasoline. Maybe having some alcohol in the trunk, so if somebody after hours looking to buy some vodka, sure, I can sell you for 10 rubles, buy it for 3. So it's kind of like that. So there was a lot of ingenuity in all those ways of making money. In the black market, that was an interesting situation. We never had that type of cash to even think about it, but there was pretty much even people standing, waiting. There were people, it's your turn to buy a car, and you, for example, to change your mind, you can sell your right to buy a car, just like, hey, 5,000 rubles, and you can buy my car, sure. I don't think you can escalate any more than the way right now already. Next step is pretty much nuclear exchange, like maybe tactically, locally. NATO will never ever put boots on the ground. It's so bad right now, and nothing done. So I think Ukraine already realized that whatever they hoped for being part of NATO is so afraid of Putin and Russia that they just will never do anything. This is situation similar Vietnam. I don't know if you know, Russians, Soviets sent their anti-aircraft missile systems there. They sent their advisors. Soviet pilots were flying, pretending to be a Vietnamese pilot. So that was done before. So it's just pretty much, it's like a poker game. Everyone cheats. You just see how far you can push the envelope. But definitely it's a huge disappointment, the whole NATO thing with Ukrainians. And Russians already, they hate the West anyway. It's just, they do. They would like to take your Alaska because a long time ago it was Russia. Well, Putin restoring Soviet Union to its glory, but it's now just the Great Russia. So you look at the borders, let's say if everything would go according to Russian plans, like Ukraine will be down in 4 days, government change, no resistance. Their next step was Moldova. It's actually, they show once in the news the Belarusian leader, Lukashenko, was showing a map, and by accident they noticed there was an arrow on the bottom. So Ukraine, Black Sea on the bottom, Crimea right here, Moldova is right there. Used to be part of the Soviet Union. You heard about Eastern Ukraine, Donetsk National People's Republic, Lugansk People's Republic. Anyway, they made artificial these areas controlled by Russians, and they call it civil war. It was a proxy war, like hybrid war. They did same thing to Moldova in 90s, like 94. They took a chunk of territory protecting Russian-speaking people there. So that's like that area. No one, what be the word? Not a single country in the world said, yeah, we accept it's a real country, Pridnestrovia. So their next step was connecting with Pridnestrovia and going after Moldova. After that, definitely Baltic states. They used to be part of Soviet Union. They're NATO members, but I said, if Putin would feel that he can keep on pushing, hey, I got nukes, what are you gonna do? You know, I'll take it. So it's pretty much right now, it's a huge stakes at the battlefield in Ukraine. And then all those stands, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, those ready for pickings, you know. It's ugly, but the West, it's same movie been back in the 30s. Everyone was afraid of Hitler. Well, if we give him a little bit of Czechoslovakia, we'll be okay. Oh, okay, well, he took Poland. Well, I guess we'll say we have a war with you now, but we won't do anything. It was like a strange war. With 2 years, they didn't do much. I mean, it's the same movie being played over again. It's just now it's Putin instead of Hitler. It's the Russian world versus Lebensraum. But we've seen this movie before. We have nuclear capabilities on both sides, and that's what's kind of ugly. But what really got Putin, you know, he was born in 1952 or something. So he still got that Soviet mentality of 70s, 80s that if I have 3,000 tanks, who's gonna stop me? But any one of you play World of Tanks? This is the end of World of Tanks. This war, when dust settles, and it won't be radioactive dust, this war will be in every book, in every military college, as the end of World of Tanks. Because tank doesn't know anything now. All you need is javelin. You just point, shoot, and you leave. You know, you don't need to crawl with grenade, try to, you know, blow up the tank. Now it's 500 feet. You just point. They trained Ukrainian that you take a guy off the street, 40 minutes later he can go and destroy the tank. It's just that easy. It's all point and shoot and run. So amount of tanks, they lost like 500 tanks right now, and that's one of the problems with Russians. And then of course, Stinger anti-aircraft missiles. There's some insane videos how they shoot down helicopters down. So this is when technology now on the battlefield, and this whole, we just need a lot of tanks, it's done, it's gone. It's so easy to destroy. You know, it's $40,000 missile versus $4 million tank with crew of 3, fried instantly. There's no one survives inside. There's some videos. Oh my God, it's just scary. Yes.
First of all, I'd like to say thank you for coming here. But I love your channel. I watch it all the time. And,
thanks.
The automobile section, it inspired me. I bought a '78 Vaz 21011 a couple years back and restored it.
You're kidding.
I'd like to say thank you.
You have it?
Yeah, at home, 200 miles away from here.
Копейка, one copy. Yeah. Wow, that's really impressive. You bought it here in America?
Yes, it was imported from Moscow. Originally, it was a garage find, actually. It sat for from 1978 to 80, and then the rest it just sat. So.
Wow. Thank you. That's really impressive. That's cool. Yeah, I don't have a lot of car culture. Like you guys all. I mean, you grew up with your cars and all the things you do in your cars, and like my generation, it's the public transportation. The fun thing you can do in a car is like, I'll tell you. So you've been on the bus, right? So you have a pole, people holding the pole, right? So the thing we like to do is you be a pretty girls holding, busy reading book. So your friend grabs, holds the pole. He's the victim, okay? But he just has his hand next to hers. So what do? You kind of make sure they're not watching you, gently touch her hand, and then you just stay. And then she looks and started like yelling at the guy because he sees his hand next to hers. I mean, you need to find probably people like me. And, I hate saying, but maybe promoting my YouTube channel because there's a lot of conversation. I think the best way to explain is actually talk to people who lived through it and experienced it, because it sounds great. I mean, no doubt about that. It's, equality for all, but how many people want to be equally poor? And I don't get me wrong, I see a lot of problems with capitalism. I mean, I came to work to the summer campus with inner city kids from Chicago. That was a shock for me, because on many levels, and the fact that even I hear, talk to children and asking how they, how life goes, this and that, and I'm noticing my mom and my boyfriend, where are your fathers? Like, for me to hear just the whole combination of my mother and my boyfriend was just like a screwdriver in my ear. Like, what are you talking about? And, it's challenging, but it's definitely, there's always, it's like a edge of the blade. A little bit, either way you go, it creates problems. So if you let capitalism just run wild, it's very much, you watch videos how in Africa, animals killing, lions killing zebras, it's natural selection. I made a video just recently about it. When I was in the airplane in America, there was a Sky Mall magazine, and that was an example of like, these Americans are crazy. They sell laser pointers for the playing pool. The whole magazine was like this excess of capitalism, but somebody was buying that crap. But they had those motivators posters for sale. You know what I mean? Like they said, like teamwork, and then it would be some smart expression. Teamwork is better than this. So I'm sleeping, and as I see this picture of the lion, and it says, every morning in Africa, a gazelle wakes up, and it knows that it must run faster than the slowest lion, otherwise it will get killed. Than the fastest lion, right? It should run faster, otherwise it will get killed. And every morning in Africa, the lion wakes up, and it knows it needs to run faster than the slowest gazelle, otherwise it will starve. So it doesn't matter if you're lion or gazelle, when sun comes up, you better be running. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. Actually, I wrote it down, like I took my notepad. It's like, well, that's an essential of capitalism. You better be running. But what it creates, just like in the animal world, you have corporations that monopolize the markets. I mean, the reality, and I was in flooring business and furniture business for a while. I hated competition. I see the truck delivering furniture in my town. I want to slash the tires. Like, what are you doing here? It's my town, but if you're owner of the private business, you hate competition because they steal your profit. Competition reduces your profit margin because you compete. So what does the natural selection does to you? You monopolize, right? If you don't have laws, like you don't have pure capitalism in America, you have laws. Otherwise, you'll have a United Beverage, Coca-Cola and Pepsi combined, holding all the market. Because every market you see, there'll be, what, 2-3 companies holding, we were in carpet business, shore industries, mohawk industries, holding 90% of the carpet market. They would love to buy each other and have the united carpet and have 100% market because their margins will improve. So capitalism also has problems, and then of course, when you have the extreme, and then a lot of upset people, then you have this situation like revolution, then it swings the other way, or you have like Chile, when they elected socialist, Allende, and then Pinochet did the junta and we went, so yeah, but talking to people who actually lived through it, and internet right now, there's a lot of information, but there's always talking points, and if you know the answers to the talking points, it's what do you do? Because I'm being trolled a lot. There's a lot of fanboys of socialism out there, and recently someone got me really fired up because I'm usually a polite guy. So he was like, "Well, you should be so proud you lived in this socialism," And I was like, well, Soviet Union was first in space, right? We had first satellite, but in the same time, the rest was not that good. So I told him, like, yeah, I never went to space, but I used outhouse a lot, and I used a lot of newspapers in that outhouse. So it's like, yeah, I guess I can say I'm proud living during socialism because it was hard to find toilet paper in many places. But so Soviet Union, the society, like, it runs a lot on your pride. Like, yeah, look, Gagarin was first in space, and it's okay. The price for it for me to be in outhouse and using newspapers, So it's how much your population is willing to sacrifice. Like Russians right now, like, okay, we're willing to sacrifice because our great leader, national leader Putin, wants to have a Russian world restored. But yeah, equality sounds really attractive. There's no doubt about it.
Well, that's probably a good spot to end on. Let's thank Sergei for coming and speaking.